Imagine this for a moment. You're standing on a small volcanic island, surrounded by endless miles of ocean in every direction. There are no airports, no big cities, no highways. The only way to get here is by taking a ship that sails for over a week. You're now farther away from the rest of humanity than almost anyone else on Earth. This is Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island in the world. A place that's unlike anything you've ever known. But here's the question, what is life really like on this tiny island? How do people survive in such isolation? And why do they choose to live here, cut off from the rest of the world? Today, we're going to dive deep into the story of Tristan da Cunha and covering its fascinating history, its resilient people, and the incredible way of life on the edge of the world. Let's begin. The land lost in the ocean. When you first look at Tristan da Cunha on a map, you might miss it entirely. It's just a tiny dot in the South Atlantic Ocean, over 2,400 kilometers from the nearest landmass, South Africa, and nearly 4,000 kilometers from South America. This is not the kind of place you stumble upon accidentally. The island is part of a small archipelago of volcanic islands, but Tristan da Cunha is the only one that's inhabited. It's often referred to as the most isolated community in the world, and for good reason. To get there, you have to board a ship that makes an 8-day journey across some of the roughest waters on Earth. There are no airports, no helicopters, and no quick way off the island. Once you're there, you're there. But what makes this place so fascinating isn't just its location, it's the people who live there. Tristan da Cunha is home to about 250 residents, and they've created a community that's entirely self-sufficient, built on cooperation, resilience, and centuries of tradition. The discovery of Tristan da Cunha. Now, let's step back in time to understand how this tiny island became inhabited in the first place. Tristan da Cunha was first discovered in 1506 by Portuguese explorer Tristan da Cunha, who named the island after himself. But despite his discovery, he wasn't able to set foot on the island. The towering cliffs and rough seas made it impossible to land. For centuries, Tristan da Cunha remained uninhabited, a lonely volcanic outcrop in the middle of the ocean. It wasn't until 1816 that the British decided to establish a garrison on the island, fearing that the French might use Tristan as a base to rescue Napoleon Bonaparte, who was exiled on the nearby island of St. Helena. But when the garrison was eventually abandoned, a small group of settlers stayed behind, choosing to call this remote island their home. They were joined by shipwreck survivors, sailors, and adventurers over the years, creating a unique and diverse community. Today, the people of Tristan da Cunha are descendants of just a few families, mainly of British, Dutch, Italian, and South African origin. It's a community that's remained incredibly close-knit, with everyone knowing everyone else. And while the population has stayed small, the spirit of the people is anything but life on the edge of the world. So, what does life look like on Tristan da Cunha today? For starters, it's a life of simplicity and self-sufficiency. The islanders rely on fishing, farming, and livestock to sustain themselves. Lobsters are their primary export and are sent to markets in Europe and Asia. But beyond that, most of their food is grown or caught locally. Potatoes, known as Tristan tatties, are a staple crop, and fishing provides a steady source of protein. Here's where it gets fascinating. There's no supermarket, no shopping mall, and no restaurants. If you need something, you either make it yourself or rely on the community to help. Islanders share resources, skills, and labor, with everyone pitching in to ensure that life runs smoothly. It's a system that's built on trust and cooperation, something that's rare to find in today's fast-paced world. Jobs on the island are limited, but almost everyone has a role to play. Whether it's maintaining the island's infrastructure, working on fishing boats, or managing the small store that sells imported goods, every contribution matters. And because the community is so small, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with every task. If one person doesn't do their job, it impacts everyone. But life on Tristan da Cunha isn't just about work, it's also about community. Islanders celebrate birthdays, weddings, and holidays together, often with big communal meals and traditional dances. There's a school for the children, and education is highly valued. However, for higher education, students must leave the island, traveling thousands of kilometers to study in the UK or South Africa. This can be a bittersweet experience. While it offers opportunities for growth, it also means leaving behind the close-knit community that defines life on Tristan. Challenges of isolation. Of course, living on the most isolated island in the world comes with its fair share of challenges. The weather, for one, is unpredictable and often harsh. Storms can roll in with little warning, battering the island with strong winds and heavy rain. The surrounding ocean is notoriously rough, making fishing and travel dangerous at times. Healthcare is another major challenge. There's a small clinic on the island, but serious medical emergencies require evacuation to South Africa. And remember, that's an 8-day journey by ship if the weather cooperates. For the people of Tristan, this isolation can be both a blessing and a curse. It protects their way of life from outside influences, but it also means that help is far away when they need it most. Another challenge is the island's volcanic nature. Tristan da Cunha is actually the tip of a massive underwater volcano, and in 1961, that volcano erupted. The entire population was forced to evacuate, traveling to England until it was safe to return. While the islanders eventually made their way back home, the eruption was a stark reminder of the power of nature and the risks of living in such a remote place. A unique culture. Despite these challenges, the people of Tristan da Cunha have created a culture that's unlike any other. Their way of life is deeply rooted in tradition, shaped by centuries of isolation. The islanders speak English, but their dialect has been influenced by the diverse origins of their ancestors. It's a mix of British, Dutch, Italian, and South African influences, creating a language and culture that's uniquely Tristanian. Traditions are passed down through generations, from fishing techniques to recipes for traditional dishes. Music and storytelling play a big role in island life, with many families gathering to share tales of their ancestors and the history of the island. This cultural heritage is something the islanders take great pride in, and it's a key part of what keeps their community strong. For outsiders, visiting Tristan da Cunha is like stepping into another world. There are no hotels, no tourist attractions, and no bustling streets. Instead, you'll find a small village surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty, a place where time seems to slow down, and the hustle and bustle of modern life feels like a distant memory.